Female-led SMEs growing in Nigeria, with women making up a sizable part of the population and SMEs being an engine of economic growth. SMEs providing jobs has been a key initiative of both the public and private sector. So joining us to discuss further is Oluwaseun Oshoniyi, who is the head of growth and support services at the FATE Foundation. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And happy International Women's Day. So excellent. You're the senior manager, head of growth services at FATE. Yeah. What's the story? How would you assess growth of female-led SMEs in the country? Okay, so I think the growth journey for women-led businesses has, gained momentum gradually over the years. In our State of Entrepreneurship report for 2021, the statistics showed that 43% of businesses in Nigeria are now women-led. So that tells us that we're making progress gradually in trying to close the gap in terms of this journey. Well, what's held the growth back? What are the challenges that are still, obstacles that are still there? Okay, from our research still, statistics showed that one of the major factors mitigating against the growth of women-led businesses in Nigeria is access to funding for one, capacity building support initiatives, and of course, government policies and regulations. So those are some of the things that have actually hampered the growth of women-led businesses. Okay, and you mentioned that survey. I think we'll put it up for our viewers. So your interpretation once more of this survey is a glass half full review. So yeah, there it is. So male-led SMEs 57%, female-led 43%, and I guess the ratio 0.75 to 1. So this is encouraging. Yes, it is. It is encouraging. It tells us that there's hope, but it tells us that there's still a lot more work that needs to be done to keep closing the gap. Are you going to, so that was for 2021. Any plans to conduct another survey this year, next year, or how often you keep track of? Absolutely. So I want to encourage everyone to watch out for our 2022 State of Entrepreneurship report. So we are optimistic about the numbers because from last year, we saw a growth in women-led businesses in specific sectors like agriculture, healthcare, and even the tech space. So we're optimistic about the data that we're going to gather this time around. I am glad you mentioned some specific sectors like agriculture, tech space, and so on. At the artisanal level, and we actually talked about this on the morning show this morning. So here, I'm being really specific now. Okay. Carpenters, okay. Bus drivers, plumbers. You don't see women in these roles. Now, has society conditioned us to accept that these are gender-specific roles? Have we accepted that, or we can condition to accept it? Because to my mind, if you want to get growth in a sector, then you have more women doing these jobs. So how do you see it? So I think the narrative in these spaces is changing gradually. The narrative in these spaces is changing. We're beginning to see women take up roles and even run businesses in this sector. At FATE Foundation, we actually have a couple of entrepreneurs who are into the carpentry space, like you mentioned. Okay. And they've taken it a step further by using recycled material to create bespoke furniture for people. So I think the narrative is changing. I mean, even you talked about driving. Most of us at one point or another have had an Uber driver who was a woman. Female. Yeah, well, it's so rare that I have to text somebody and say, hey, my Uber driver was female. Exactly. There's always that excitement, when you have a woman in a role that society doesn't see as the norm. Right. But I think that narrative is actually changing. Well, it's one day, and it's almost like Valentine's Day where they say you don't express love on one particular day. But what's the significance of International Women's Day to you? So I think it's a call to the business community to actually create inclusiveness, right, in the ecosystem for female entrepreneurs, giving them the opportunity to thrive and grow. And we can do that by, working on improving the restrictions that women have in terms of access to funding, for example. And, just leveling the playing field around access to opportunities at large so that it helps foster growth for women in the entrepreneurial space. Now, you folks at the FATE Foundation, you're doing the best you can. You saw that Sheito Atigari's report where Kate Henshaw and a number of other folks, Chimamanda Adichie, were expressing what happened at the National Assembly. From Tunde Abiola also on our morning show, very visibly upset. With these obstacles and so on and so forth, can this be, can the private sector do it alone to get you over these hump? Or at some point, does the government have to be involved in trying to get the growth that you're looking for?
So it's not a journey that we can embark on alone, right? Even in our report, it shows that for business recovery for women, right, after the impact of COVID-19, it showed that a lot of the investment and support came from private sector. It came from non-profit organizations, you know, and it came from churches and other institutions. So there has to be more synergy between the private sector and governments to actually keep on working to close the gap.
In a pre-election year, you think you'll get that kind of help from government? Because we ask everyone that comes on the show, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's whatever it is, when we talk about government assistance, we always say, well, a pre-election year, the government seems to be so focused on winning elections that reforms and so on. So how would you gauge that in this type of environment?
Because there's a lot going on right now, the truth is it is a tall order, but we can be optimistic. You know, I mean, we're very good at keeping hope alive, and the truth of the matter is we just have to maintain that. I mean, if we've been able to move to the point where 43% of businesses in Nigeria are led by women, then I think we can get there to the point where we have more female representation, you know, in governments. Because the truth is, once you empower women, you know, there's an impact on the household. They will create more jobs. There will be more innovation. We would see that in their businesses and so on. So it has a positive impact on the economy at large.
If you were to take a guess, final question for you. And I know you have to wait till the survey is done, but do you think that 43% number climbs at the next time you take that survey? I'm going to guess and say yes. I think it does increase, or you know, but I don't know if it gets to 45 or 46, but what do you think?
I think it will increase. Yeah? So just watch out for our 2022
report. When is it coming out?
So we should be looking at having it out towards the end of the year.
Great stuff. We'll have Faith Foundation back to take a look at that report. All right. I love the stats and the data and stuff. Oluwaseun Oshoniyi, who is the head of growth services at the Faith Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy International Women's Day again.
Thank you.